So ideas you cannot copyright. So there are exceptions to this, which cannot be appropriated, cannot be private, cannot be said to be owned by anyone. It's part of the public domain. Even ideas, they cannot be copyrighted.
Where can our listeners, for those who need to understand more, because it can get quite complex, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they listen to this program and
one,
call us up or attend the basic orientation seminars in the IPO. Copyright is a very complicated subject matter.
It's not as simple as it sounds.
Yes, well, we have to stick to the basics. As I said, there are two components of copyright, the economic rights and the moral rights. You can never buy the moral right unless it's an orphan work, meaning no author surfaces. No one knows who wrote this song. No one knows who created this sculpture. No one knows who performed this particular play or a performance. That's good. So no one claims copyright of that because there's no one who is coming out to say, I own that work. I created that work.
If nobody puts claim to specific work, can somebody just come in and say akin yan and say, hey, I put that together even though I didn't? For example, that document
yes, you
in the
can,
States,
but it doesn't mean you're the original.
Oh, but if you register it first.
We call it orphan work.
There
is no registration. When it comes to copyright, unlike trademarks and patents, copyright does not require registration, and that has been the case ever since the Berne Convention, which Victor Hugo, the writer of Les Miserables, convened in the 1858. Copyright does not require formality. The moment you create a work, even if you're a graphic designer, that's yours. Now, as an owner of property, it's up to you whether or not you want to relinquish that right completely by contract. Pay me, I won't lay claim to this work. So that's the economic aspect. But the moral right always stays with the author, even if he dies or he sells it, or anything or something related to that. The moral right, unless of course we legislate to the point that moral rights can now be relinquished.
That reminds me of the Beatles, no less John Lennon in the song Till There Was You. He performed it, and he couldn't figure out the lyricist or the composer because he found the music sheet at the bench of the piano stool that his mother used to make him play piano on to learn music. And so he came out, he performed it, and when he published the song and recorded it, he didn't attribute a specific composer because he really couldn't identify. Yun ang tinatawag mo orphan work.
Yes,
Marami
it's
bang
an
ganyan,
orphan
attorney?
work. There are a lot of orphan works, but more of that after this traffic and weather update from charlieoftraffic.com.
We now return to Piracy Watch on DZRJ 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines. Here's your host, Sarah Jane Sugitan.
Welcome back, everybody, to Piracy Watch, where we talk anything and everything about your intellectual property, be it copyrights, trademarks, or patents. Today, we're talking about copyright in preparation for the World Intellectual Property Day, which is about 1 month from now. But we're already starting preparations for that. And also, Piracy Watch is mainly about copyright. You see, we have music coming in from abroad. We have the local music industry, same for films, for books. And this is the most pirated, most counterfeited, and most faked intellectual property. You have fake DVDs, not just fake bags. You also have fake or photocopied books reproduced without license or permission from the authors, which is a form of infringement. And we do watch out for that. As we've heard earlier, the IPOPHIL, the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines, has signed an agreement with the Philippine Ports Authority to police our 7,107 islands. All the ports that under the administration of the PPA will now be strictly monitored for incoming and outgoing pirated and bootlegged commodities. All right. So before the break, we were talking about orphan works, and basically, as we said, copyright, meaning COPYRIGHT, not the copyright right as in the advertising agencies, the position, it's not a human. Is it a human right? Well, under the law, it is not. It's not part of our Bill of Rights. It is a private and a property right. So it is up to you on how to exercise ownership or how to, it is basically governed by special law, by civil law, by contract. And earlier we were trying to break down, of course, in a song, who are the rights owners and what are their respective copyrights. And as we said, the performer, meaning the artist who interpreted, for example, that song has copyright over his or her performance, or if it's a band, they have copyright over their interpretation of the work. And you have a separate copyright for the lyricist, the composer, even the producer has a related right on said work. So there you go. Now, for those of you who'd like to know how do I obtain copyright under the Philippine, well, not just Philippine law, also international law, copyright is automatic. You don't need registration for that. You don't need to go to any particular government agency. However, there is a deposit requirement provided under the law with the National Library and the Supreme Court Library. The reasons for this are not to grant you copyright, because as we've said, copyright is automatically existing from the moment of creation. The purpose of depositing a copy of your work with the library, the National Library and the Supreme Court Library, is to keep a record of the works, and also for evidentiary purposes in case of future infringement cases, or there's a need to prove in court who owns, who created the work first. Then you can always cite your registry with the library. You can always say, I deposited a copy with the National Library on so and so date. So that proves that I'm the first to own that that book or that song or whatever form of intellectual property or copyrighted work you have created.
You know, it's interesting, attorney, how copyright is now being protected, and well, this shows generating awareness to the real true meaning of copyright, which is basically protection. Can you imagine if there was no copywriting and everyone could just steal each other's music or creation, di ba? It would be complete tyranny, chaos. You know, akin yan, miski hindi yun. No? Parang gano'n ang nangyayari eh.
Yeah, interestingly enough, copyright law developed as early as when book printing, the technology for...
I remember your guest before, the authors, the writers from Ateneo.
And Attorney Louis.
And really, buti na lang there are people like that with the advocacy to promote. Is this a 21st century idea?
No, copyright. Well, as I said earlier, copyright law developed as early as 1858 when Victor Hugo, the writer of Les Miserables, convened authors and artists in 1858, and that convention gave birth to what is now called the Berne Convention, because that's where they convened. And at that point, they agreed because they felt that they were wronged when they were creating works, and it was being appropriated or not well compensated for by other people. So, well, as early as 1858, there is already an international convention to this effect, recognizing that authors have rights over their creations. But the problem is, of course, it's a commodity that is hard to quantify, in the sense that, well, if you perform on stage, for example, and then someone videotaped your performance while you were singing a song or playing the drums or something, and that video found its way on the tube, and then you were not credited for it, you were not identified, or worse, it got sold and you didn't get any profits from that, despite the fact that you're the one who put in talent and work on that, then that's when you know that something's wrong. So as early as 1858, they were already recognizing the fact that creative people have to be given recognition and, well, profit from their works. So copyright, as we were saying earlier, is a bundle of rights. It consists of a moral right, which is your right to, well, your right of authorship or paternity, so that when you say this brand, it immediately is associated with who is the creator of that work, the signature. And along with that moral right is the right to object to distortions. So if you're going to use my work and you're going to, for example, translate it in a way that I do not favor or will look badly or will reflect badly on me, then I can object to that as part of my moral right under copyright.
So, for example, counterfeit being sold in the market, that copy brands is also, it is illegal. I don't understand how we can continue to buy here. Last weekend, we had an event in Ayala, Alabang, and it was great, except for the fact that we had openly, may mga tiangge, no, in the field, in the polo field. Okay na sana lahat. You had certain people, private entities that were selling their own personal cakes, bananas, and whatnot. And then on one side, all of a sudden, nakita ko the usual ukay-ukay, or what they call the counterfeit, where they have all these branded items, shirts, t-shirts, pants, whatever, pajamas. And they're selling them, of course, really cheap, diba? But it's still illegal. And I guess it's irritating when you begin to understand the rights of people, authors, composers, innovators, and their rights and their brands are being stolen by others. And continuously in this country, it seems we need to bring together a sense of responsibility among the buyers and the people, that the problem is not just the government or the policing agent or intellectual property being there to safeguard the rights and protection of the citizenry. But really, the bigger problem are those that succumb to the cheap products or the counterfeits that continue to be sold openly in so many places. And it's remarkable how we as a people continue to support it.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. But bakit tayo naging ganon, Pilipino?
In addition to your event in Alabang where you have a Changi and then there are fake, pirated, counterfeit goods being sold, there is incidentally also a Tiange across the DTI right here along Buendia Avenue. And
right across the Department of Trade.
Yes, Trade and Industry.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
probably an allowed one town one product or some promotion thing, but there are still goods in there that are counterfeit. And let's face it, the sooner we condemn this counterfeit goods, I mean, the better off we are in terms of respecting each other's intellectual property and promoting each other's originality. So it's just not nice to see it right in front of government offices being peddled so openly as if the government agency is allowing that to happen right in their premises.
Nagbubulag-bulagan.
Diba? It's right within your backyard, literally.
Yeah.
It's
No,
literally
that's
in
the
their
Department of
backyard.
Trade. So I guess that's
So-
calling out to Secretary Domingo. Hey guys.
Yes, let's be the one from the government, because the IPO really makes an effort to, well, police its own premises even. And it's just not nice if we see it on the streets so near government offices, diba? And it should be the government pushing for originality. We're the ones saying in the papers, in the news, that we burned this much fake goods, we seized this much fake goods, and then we see it being sold openly in near the government premises. That doesn't speak so well of the government.
Well, we continuously import nonstop. Sometimes I wonder whose fault is it? Is it Secretary Alvarez on Customs as these products keep coming in? But I think there's what you call technical smuggling. For example,
Technical.
balikbayan boxes. Can you imagine the tons and tons of balikbayan boxes that come into this country from no less than China, where counterfeit is, it's polluted the whole country, and that's how they continue to disregard rights, brands, property, and they just create multiple brand titles, and they bring it in legally through these balikbayan boxes. No need to smuggle, just bring it in as balikbayan box, because libre
As a
naman lahat
personal.
dyan. And to those who are in this business and to those who are in the business of selling fake products, alam naman nila, I think everybody should know. It comes in balikbayan boxes. And
Maybe
they're
not
sold
just
openly.
balikbayan. Well, it just appalls me that we have to definitely we have to police our own ports. Those are the entry and exit points of fake goods. And to think that we're not just buying the fake and counterfeit goods, we're also selling them to our neighboring countries. We're becoming the source, the exporter of fake goods. That's not something to aspire for, and it's definitely counterproductive to the local manufacturers, to our local brands, to our local artists who do their best and try to earn a living out of their creativity.
Kawawa naman, ano?
Kawawa naman. So and it's good to hear that we're going to have stricter border control measures.
Oh, that's
it's an
good.
effort. It's an
that's
effort
very
towards
good.
the right direction, but definitely it's I acknowledge the challenge. It's an archipelagic country. So how are you going to police all of that? How are you going to monitor all of that without the proper support and infrastructure is up for grabs. But before that, more of intellectual property and copyright after this short break.